All right. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 6.2b and 6.2e. The questions I pulled from are from Release Star questions. So 6.2b, identify number, its opposite, and its absolute value. 6.2e, represent ratios and percents with concrete models, fractions, and decimals. Let's look at our first problem. We're doing 6.2b, identify a number, its opposite, and its absolute value. So this is from the 2018 test. George wrote an integer. The opposite of George's integer is negative 53. Which of these statements about George's integer must be true? Now first let's talk about what opposites are. Opposites, an opposite of a number, so the opposite of 1 would be negative 1. Why? Because it's on the opposite side of 0 of a number line. So the opposite of negative 1 would be positive 1. So ultimately, how do you find the opposite of number? Well, you just multiply it by negative 1. Let me show you how that would work. So the opposite of 4 would be negative 4. Why? Because if I started off on a number line, and here's 4, what's the opposite side? It would be negative 4. So how do I go find the opposite of a number? You just multiply it by negative 1. So why is that important? So we have the opposite of an integer, and the integer is negative 53. So to find the opposite of negative 53, all I have to do is multiply negative 53 times negative 1. Of course, as you know, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 1 times 53 is 53. So the opposite of negative 53 is positive 53. So, now that we know that, let's see which of these is true. So I know 1 is true, Roman numeral 1, the integer is 53. Okay, because we just proved that. I'm going to erase down here, because I already know it's 53, positive 53. Alright, the integer has an absolute value of negative 53. Well, the problem with this is absolute value is the distance a number is from 0. So the absolute value of 53 is 53. The absolute value of negative 53 is 53. Why? Again, if I put both of these numbers on a number line, how far is each number from 0? The thing with absolute value, you can't have a negative distance. You can't have a negative answer. The integer, so let's look at Roman numeral 2. The integer has an absolute value of negative 53. Well, I know that can't be true, so I'm going to cross that out. So let's look at Roman numeral 3. The integer is negative 53. Well, again, the problem is you started off at negative 53. The opposite of negative 53 is not negative 53. So that's not it. So looking at our answer choices, hopefully it's Roman numeral 4, but let's check. I'm going to erase this down here. All right. The integer has an absolute value of 53. Well, let's see what the absolute value of 53, because that's the opposite of negative 53. What is the absolute value of 53? That's right, 53, because again, what's the distance? The number is from 0, and how far is 53 from 0? It's 53. Again, you can't travel a negative distance. So Roman numeral 4 is correct. So what's our answer choice on this one? That's right, D. Very good. All right. So there weren't a lot of questions on 6.2b. So now we're going to go to 6.2e. Extend representation for division to include fraction notation such as a over b represents the same as a divided by b, where b can't be 0. So before we get into the problem, let's talk about this. So we have a over b, a divided by b, but b can't be 0. Let's talk about each of these. Now a over b, of course, as we know, this is a vinculum. Another word for that is a fraction bar, division bar. What we need to understand is, a lot of times we call it a fraction bar, which it is, this red line right here. It's also a division bar, because if I have 1/2, I can divide 1 by 2 and turn it into a decimal and get 5/10. Okay? So I need to understand that if I have, let me erase this, 1 over 2, I can write this as 1 divided by 2, and these are equivalent expressions. I can divide 1 by 2 on this one. I can divide 1 by 2 on this one. Okay. Notice that the 1 is the first number. It's the numerator on top. It's the first number you write. 1 is the first number you write on here. Top number, and it's the first number when you write it this. Okay, it doesn't matter which one number is greater or less. Does not matter. Numerator is the first number you're going to write if you set it up, division horizontally. Now let's talk about why B can't be 0. Now, I can have 0 slices of pizza out of 8, meaning I started off with the whole pizza, friends came over, we ate everything, and now I have 0 left. This could happen. But B, denominator, I can't have 8 slices of pizza out of 0. I can't have 0 slices of pizza, but all 8 of them are really good. That just wouldn't make sense. So you can't have a 0 in the denominator. Okay, so that's what that means. So let's look at the problem. Amy has 5 yards of border to put around a garden. She uses all the border to make 4 sections that are the same length. Which expression does not equal the length of one of these sections in yards? So first we have to ask, what are we dividing up? Are we dividing 4 sections? Are we dividing the yard or the border up? And obviously we're dividing the border up. Okay. So since we know what we're dividing up, we're dividing the 5 yards of border, we realize we're dividing the 5 by 4. So let's go back to the question, which expression does not equal the length of one of these sections in yards? So I have 3 answers that are correct, 1 that's not. Each of these I'm going to be dividing the 5 by the 4. Okay? And so this time we're going to start on the bottom. So J, this one is correct. So it's not it because we're looking for the not equal. So why is J a valid answer? Because we are dividing 5 by 4. Whatever you're dividing first, you're going to write first. So 5 divided by 4, and this would give me the correct answer. So it's not J. Could it be H? Well, again, I just wrote it 5 by 4 because, again, the division bar is the same thing as fraction bar. So H would be a valid way of writing it because, again, I'm dividing the 5 by 4. What about G? Well, G, again, is a valid way of writing it. Why? Because notice how I wrote it here, 5 over 4, dividing the 5 by 4. Whenever you do it this way, which number goes in the box? Which number goes out? 5 would go in, top in, bottom out. The 5 goes inside, the 4 outside. We got the divisor, we have the dividend, the quotient will be on top. Again, the same way here. Whatever number you write first, the divisor is outside the box, dividend's inside, and again, quotient on top. So 5 goes inside the box. 4 is the divisor, because that's what you're dividing by. You're dividing by 4. And the 5 is the dividend. That's what's being divided up, the border. So we've looked at all these, G, H, and J. We proved those to be valid. So the answer must be F. Why is the answer F? Because, again, we are dividing 4 by 5, which is, we're not dividing the sections by the border. It should be opposite. 4 divided by 5 is the same thing as 4 over 5, or 4 like this. And none of these would be valid, so our answer is F. All right. Very similar question on 6.2e. This is from the 2015 test. Which 2 expressions each represent 3 over 12? Okay. Which 2 expressions each represent 3 over 12? So the first thing we're going to do is look at a traditional division problem. So again, we have the divisor outside, dividend inside. They're not expecting us to actually divide it, but just set it up. So again, the numerator, the dividend, the denominator is the divisor, top in, bottom out. So looking at this, I know it can't be, and it doesn't matter which number is bigger or smaller. That's irrelevant. It's always the numerator is the dividend and the denominator is the divisor. Again, top in, bottom out is an easy way to remember this. I know it can't be A. I know it can't be D. So that leaves us with B and C. So obviously they switched the second half around, so only one of these is correct. So if I'm writing the division problem horizontally, how do I know which number goes first? Well, this is kind of easy because 3 is on top. It is written usually traditionally first, so it will come first. This would be the same thing. This is equivalent to that. Okay, so again, the numerator is written first, denominator is written second, and it is the same thing as 3 over 12. So which one is our answer? It is C. Just a friendly reminder, again, it doesn't matter which number is bigger or smaller. Top number is written first. The bottom number, denominator, is written second. All right, well, this concludes the problems we're going over on 6.2b and 6.2e. Hopefully this has helped some. If you need additional help or have any questions, you can feel free to email me at jhewlett@leisd.ws. Thanks, and have a great day.